Kit Christopherson here to give you a guided tour on white charcoal on black paper, an extremely satisfying medium where you are able to use the black of the paper to do the majority of the shading for you. You simply add white charcoal on the highlight parts and slowly shade and fade it out using whatever materials resources you have for blending, just as long as it's not your finger. Sometimes I'll use the microfiber cloths you get with glasses and all the electronic devices that we're inundated with. But you can use Kleenex, paper towel, rolled up pieces of paper, and of course a professional blending stub, which is what I'm using today. I think that shading a sphere is probably one of the most critical things you could do for learning to shade. You have the highlight, mid-tone, core shadow, and then right after that a reflective shadow and the cast shadow. If you can accurately reproduce those things with your shading and fading techniques, you'll be able to apply that to any level of detail that you want. People tend to shy away from detail. They become afraid of messing it up. But the truth of the matter is, a good artist looks at a detailed piece and they just take it a little bit at a time. And a detailed subject matter is actually much more forgiving. For instance, if you were to draw a portrait of an elderly person with many features and wrinkles and time worn into the face versus trying to draw a baby, if you get a single line out of place with the baby, it is extremely difficult to make it look other than an alien, right? Like you have to get everything just absolutely correct. So when you have something that has a high level of detail, never shy from it. Always just go for it, because there is so much forgiveness to making small errors, and you end up getting a lot more experience with craftsmanship with a detailed subject matter as well. As long as you're drawing as you see an object and not what you think it looks like, and trust yourself and your eye-hand coordination to do that under drawing well, so that you don't have to do any kind of drawing when you're doing the shading portion of it. The shading portion of it, you're just focused on those tonal values and trying to figure out your light and dark patterns and areas, right? And if you've shaded the sphere correctly, the cylindrical forms of a solenoid shape and the sphere, the rounded of a sphere, if you can shade those two things well, when you go to actually do something of detail, those are really just shade and fades of similar nature that have maybe been bent into a slightly more organic form. Okay, it's not as hard as you would think. So some things that I want to encourage you to do. Always look for the highlights first and focus on that. You can always add more highlight in as you go, but most area is going to be some shade of gray. Okay, very few spots are actually going to be bright white. Okay, most of a subject is going to be a shade of gray. This particular project is one I have students I call Drama Queen, but it's about finding a dramatic subject matter and then creating that. Now the paper, black paper and white charcoal lends itself to a dramatic form anyway, so if you were to paint a rock, it would be dramatic. But of course, it's fun to play with dramatic subject matter. And today, I've chosen a skull, which is often a training tool because it's already in monochromatic form. When you're looking at bone structures, it's an incredibly good way for beginning artists to start. So that's all I have for this tutorial today. Get out there and make art. Don't be afraid. Don't hesitate. Don't be a perfectionist. Just go for it.